What's up, my people? Welcome back to the channel. Today I show you a healthcare AI chatbot that I built and how you can get into building one yourself. So here's a demo. So I've deployed the chatbot here to a specialty hospital here in Kenya. It's called HCGCCK. So here you can see the chat bubble, so I'll click on it. So let's see. Hello, my name is Zawadi. How may I assist you today? So it can handle general inquiries based on information on the website, and also handle booking of appointments. So let's say I want to ask it, where are you guys located? HCGCK is located at Shivaji Road, Parklands, Nairobi, Kenya. So let's say, what type of cancers do you guys treat? So you see, we treat all types of cancer, including acute, whatever that is. So you can pause and read through that. I want to bombard you with the boring stuff. So let's say the many cancer care centers. Why should I go with you guys? Let us see. HCG Cancer Care Kenya offers patient-centered care, state-of-the-art facilities, and continuity of care throughout your cancer journey. So let's say I want to book an appointment with the doctor. So I want to book an appointment. To book an appointment, we'll need a bit of information from you. First of all, what's your name? Mutiso Mwadhime. Let us see. And my email. So that's my email there. Can you kindly provide your phone number? There you go. Are you familiar with the name of the condition you are experiencing? So let's say I do. So kindly provide its name. So I'll say, I'm completely healthy by the way, but I'll just say lung cancer. Kindly type in the symptoms you are experiencing in great detail, so I can say, and so on and so forth. So I'm experiencing shortness of breath, constantly running nose, all that. Awesome. And when would you prefer to come for the appointment? So let me say tomorrow will be awesome. Kindly pick your preferred time slot. So it checks in the database on the calendar, checks which time slots are available for that specific day, because some of those slots could be have already taken by a customer. So I can show you that. So when I go to the database, so here in the availability, it checks for that specific day. I've said tomorrow, and today is 20th of August, so it will check 21st of August, are there slots available? So that's on this day. Then it checks what slots are available, so you can see them there. Then it displays them back to the user. So let me say I'm okay with 12 to 1. So you see, successfully booked your appointment. Kindly check your email address in regard to the booking. Here's your booking ID. Then if you go to Airtable, which in this case is acting as our CRM, then I go to bookings, you can see my booking has entered there. You can see the details there. Patient name, email, phone number, the condition name, then the symptoms that I've mentioned, all of them here, appointment date, appointment time, all that. Then if I go to the email address, so you can see here in the email I'd entered, I get an email. So it's saying, Dear Mutiso Mwadhime, this is to confirm that your appointment has been successfully booked for that date from that time. Your booking ID is 20. Thank you for choosing HCGCCK. Then if I go to my other email address, here you can see I've gotten an email address. In this case, I'm the doctor. So dear Dr. Mutiso, there's a new patient booking for that date, for that time. The booking ID is that, and here are the details. So patient name, patient email address, the phone number, the details that they're provided from the chatbot. You can see it not only saves the information to the CRM, it sends the customer an email in regards to their booking, and also sends the doctor an email in regards to the booking for them to prepare. So now the big question you're asking is, how do you get into building this? So let me show you, and stick around because I'll provide the entire free template for you to download and use it for your own scenario. Let's get right into it. So we're building the chatbot via VoiceFlow. So if you don't have a VoiceFlow account, go ahead and search voiceflow.com and create an account. You'll click get started. You'll see a form. Fill out your details, your email, your name, the standard stuff. Then you'll sign in. So you'll reach your dashboard, something like this. So what you want to do is you'll click new agent and create a new AI chatbot. So you can start this from scratch or use the template that I've provided, link in the description. So I've already started on this, so let's get into the build. I'll explain everything you need to know so that you understand the nitty-gritties. So here I have two workflows, the home workflow and the workflow in regards to booking the appointment. So let me go to the home workflow. So here we start with a text message. So hello, my name is Zawadi. How may I assist you today? And if you've noticed, if you're a VoiceFlow guy, they've changed the interface a bit, so it looks a bit weird. But yeah, So that's a text message. You can generate some variations of this message. Then you insert some buttons in here. So these buttons is either booking an appointment, a general inquiry, or a no match. So if they don't click a button, but rather they just type in something, we're able to handle that also. So if they book an appointment, I'll take you to that workflow, but let's go to the simple ones. So first is the general inquiry. They just have a general inquiry, so they click on that button, it takes them to this part. So it's just a text message saying sure, go ahead. Then we capture the user's response via a capture block, so you'll get it here. Then save it to the default last utterance variable. Then we'll take it, forward it to a response AI step. In this case, this will now give an answer based on information available in the knowledge base. So the knowledge base of this chatbot is I've fed it with web page URLs from the specific business we are working with, which is HCGCCK in this case. So I went ahead and went to their website, copied all those links. I can show you. So for example, here I came and took this homepage, copied it, then went back to the knowledge base here. Let me exit here. A shortcut to go to the knowledge base is Shift K from the canvas. Shift K takes you here and you can see all these URLs that I added. So these contain information on the website and the data that can help the chatbot provide relevant responses. So you'll go ahead and click add data source, then you can add some URLs. So in this case we're using URLs. So you'll go to the website or the hospital you want to build a chatbot for, then go to every single page you feel like has relevant information, then go ahead and copy the URL of that page, come and paste it in here. Then you go URL after URL, each URL occupies its own line. So that's what I did over here. Then click import, then you'll have them be listed down over here. So you'll see once the status has shown is a tick, means that you're ready to answer questions from the knowledge base. Okay, so I go back to the workflow. Here you see in the response AI step we pick knowledge base. Then in the question we pass in the last utterance variable because that contains the user's question. Then in the instruction we just tell them this is a recent chat conversation, so we give it the previous chat conversation. By default, VoiceFlow saves those details within VF_memory, so this is always available. It's necessary to give the AI some context on the conversation that's just happened so it can give more relevant responses. So provide a relevant answer to the user's question from information in the knowledge base. So then we add a not found path, so ensure this is toggled on, so just in case the AI doesn't have an answer, we're able to handle that accordingly. Then pick a model to use with this. In this case we'll go with GPT 3.5 Turbo as the standard one. Ensure the temperature is down to 0. This I normally advise, especially if you don't want the AI to use much of its creativity to give the responses, because it might gear off the intended instructions it's been given. If the temperature is higher, you increase the chances of it hallucinating and giving irrelevant responses. So temperature simply means how creative do you want the AI. For situations where like creative writing and stuff, you can experiment with temperatures between 0.5 to 1, but in this case most of the time you'll have the temperature at 0. Okay, because you want the AI to be deterministic and you can predict the answers it gives. So then you can set the maximum number of tokens. This is the number of tokens it consumes, both for the input and output of the AI. Then here's a system prompt. You can go ahead and pause and read through it. I don't want to bore you with the boring stuff, but also this is available in the template. Okay, so pause, give it a role at the task at hand, the specifics of the task, and some notes on how it should behave. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause and read through that. This we override the overall prompt setting that's in the knowledge base. So when you toggle this on, it will override the system prompt that's available in the knowledge base, and I can show you that. So if I go to the knowledge base, Shift K, then I go here to settings, you can see this is a global system prompt. So if you don't override the system prompt here, it will use this. Okay, but otherwise we want to override it. Okay, so going back, so once the AI gives an answer, we can be able to lead it back to capture the user's next question, because they could be having another question, so we lead it there. If the AI didn't get an answer, we'll just tell them, sorry, I don't have a response to that, can I help you with anything else? Then we input some buttons here. So this is a text block, then this next is some buttons, so either yes or no. And in the buttons we've attached some intents. So if So the first intent is yes, and the second one is no. So these are default intents that are available in VoiceFlow, and if you're not familiar with intents, is it enables the AI to determine what's the intention in the user's response. Are they saying something like yes or yeah or okay? That means that the intention is just a positive affirmation. So that's why you have an intent of yes. If they say no or nah or nah, I'm not okay with that, that means that's a negative affirmation. So that's the no intent. If they say something like I want to book a meeting, I want to book in an appointment with you guys, the intent there is booking an appointment. So we can create intents so that the AI can jump off and follow specific workflows based on the intention of within the user's response. So we attach the intents there. So either they can click the button yes, or actually type in yes or yeah, whatever that is, we're able to pick up on that. That's the importance of intents. So if they say yes, we say sure, go ahead, then lead them on to the block that captures the user's question. And that's, if you don't remember, that's this capture user question, which is simply a capture block. Okay, and it's good practice to always be naming your blocks, because you can easily jump off from block to block without having to drag the workflow, this arrow, all the way up here. It can become very messy and your canvas will look so cluttered. So it's good practice to be naming your blocks, so that, for example, here I can simply, if I didn't name my block, I come here, actions, go to block, select block that I want to go to. In this case, it's in the home workflow. I want to go to the capture user question. But if I hadn't named it, you see, I'm just having blocks called new block 1, block 2, block 3. You don't know what this block was specifically doing. So it becomes so hard, especially if you have so many blocks now in your canvas and you're dealing with a more complex chatbot. So it's good practice to be naming your blocks. Okay, so I'll pick capture user question. Then if they say no, they don't have a question, you just tell them, if you have any further inquiries, I'm here for you. So this is a text block. We give it some variations of that, so that it's not so static. In case someone interacts with this chatbot a lot, they can see different answers, like they are a human being would be working. So then we just end the conversation. Okay, so this is an action of type end conversation. Okay, so with this, I think that makes sense. This is a simple workflow. Then if you go to the book appointment, so if they click book appointment, or rather they say something in the lines of I want to book a doctor's appointment, I want to visit you guys, all that means they want to book an appointment. So we take them to the book appointment workflow. And before this, I want to show you the intent itself that picks up on this. So let me go back here. If I go to intents, I went ahead and created that intent. So you see, by default, these two intents are normally there, yes and no, but you can add your own intents. So I created a new intent. So on your side, you can click new intent, but if you're using the template, this is already there, so don't worry. Give it your intent a name, then a description, something like trigger this intent when the user expresses interest in booking an appointment, something like that. The description isn't really important if you're using NLU intent classification. So in this case, let me just show you. If I go to the settings here, you can either have NLU intent classification or LLM intent classification. NLU is cheap and it's completely free, but is less accurate compared to using an AI model to determine the intents. So if you pick LLM, you see it has some token costs, so it will actually add up to your AI usage costs, but it's more accurate at picking up intents within the user's response. But in this case, NLU, I find it's good enough for simple intent, so you can work with it. So let me show you the utterances. So you'll give your intent some utterances. So these are statements. When the AI sees these kind of statements, it will tell that the intent is booking an appointment. So give it a couple of examples. So like this, you can pause and read through them. Do you have any appointment slots available? I need to schedule a consultation. All this. And you can have the AI assist you in generating this. So if you go back here to new intent and give it some utterances, whatever it is, you can have the AI generate 10 sample phrases based on the 5 or 7 examples you've already given. Then you'll create the intent. Okay, so going back to the workflow, so here they can click on the button of book appointment, then that will take them to the book appointment workflow. But they can also just say I want to book an appointment, and the intent and the AI will be able to pick up on that intent. And how we do that is here in the buttons. If you go here, click on this, then you go to intent scoping, ensure it's set to listen for all intents. Okay, so this allows it to always be alert, listening for the intention within the user's response. If in any place in the chatbot conversation the user says, I want to book an appointment or something in lines of that, the AI can pick up on that. Okay, so with that you can go to the book appointment workflow. So I'll click on that, go directly to that, or rather let's just go here directly. So this workflow is being triggered by an intent, and that intent is book appointment. So you can see here, if I click on that, it's being triggered by an intent that's called book appointment. So go ahead and connect that intent accordingly, then we'll start. So it will first give a text message. This is just a text block over here, a text message. So to book an appointment, we'll need a bit of information from you. First of all, what's your name? That's another text message. Then we capture the user's response and save it to a variable called customer name. So here, go ahead and create a new variable called customer name. Okay, but if you're using the template, you already have this. So then next, we'll capture their email, then save that email to a variable, and in this case we're using something called entities. Okay, so if this sounds complex, let me just explain. What an entity is, it enables you to capture the relevant information within the user's response. So if you've asked the user to type in their email and they say something like, my email is mutiso@gmail.com, you don't want to capture the entire statement as the email, you just want to capture mutiso@gmail.com. So that's why entities help a lot, greatly they help a lot. So you'll go ahead and click here. So instead of capturing the entire user reply, which is the default, just go ahead and create new entity, give it a name. In this case I called mine email. Okay, so in this case you can minus this, call it email or something. Then the data type, in this case we'll have it as email. You can do the same thing for phone number. So if they say my phone number is 07 blah blah blah, it will just capture 07 blah blah blah. Okay, so that's good. Then in the actions here, you set action, set variable, and set the variable of customer email, which is a variable we have already created. So you'll create the variable customer email. Then let me show you customer email. Then we set it to the email entity that we've just created. So this is already created. I won't add it, so let me minus that. Then go back here. So we've already saved it up, so we don't need to do it again. So then we add a no match in case they input a wrong email address or an email that's in the wrong format. So click no match, then add a path. In your case here, you'll have it as plus. So go ahead and click plus to add that path. So you can see in the no match, you just tell them kindly enter your correct email address. Then we immediately lead them back to the same captcha block for them to input the right email. Then this will flow directly to asking for their phone number. So, and what about your phone number? We capture the phone number, and just like before, we have an phone entity that just captures the phone number. Okay, then we save it up to the variable called customer phone, just like we did for the email. Okay, and moving on here, then we ask them, are you familiar with the name of the condition you're experiencing? If yes, we tell them kindly provide its name, then capture their response, which is a captcha block here, and save it to a variable called customer condition. Okay, otherwise we'll just forward them. So if they say no, they don't know the name of their condition, we'll just tell them to type in their symptoms. And in any case, even if they know the name of the condition, we still want to get their symptoms for the doctor to be prepared before the appointment. Okay, so kindly type in your symptoms, then we capture their symptoms from this captcha block and save it to a variable called customer symptoms. Okay, in this case, we capture the entire user reply. So if they say I'm experiencing this, and that, we capture the entirety of that and save it to this variable. Okay, then awesome. And when would you prefer to come for the appointment? This is a text message. Then we capture their response. Then we'll use this response that they'll give to call the database and get the slots that are available for that specific day. And I'll show you a trick on how we're able to capture the exact date they have mentioned, if they didn't explicitly say 21st of June 2024. We're able to use AI to capture the exact date they say. So if they say next week Friday, we'll capture that next week Friday is, in this case, let's say in our calendar, next week Friday would be 30th of August. Okay, so we're able to capture that with AI. So next is a JavaScript block, and in this case we just want to capture the current date, the date that we are on today. Okay, so it looks complex, but it's quite simple. We first get the current date from the date function that's inbuilt in JavaScript, then get the year, month, and the day. Then we have the days of the week here, so that we can be able to, it's in an array, so that we can be able to capture the exact index of that day and save it on to this variable called day of week. Okay, then now this final variable is what will have the meat of the actual date that we want, and want to format the date in ISO 8601 format. So this is in this format where it's the year, the month, then the day. Okay, and actually also include the day of the week at the end of it. So this does that. Then we save it to a variable called current date. This is a variable I've already created in my voice flow. So on your side, if you don't have that, create that. Okay, then we move on. And notice I've skimmed through it very quickly because I know my low code, no code guys will scream at me. Knowing a lot of code will really help your chatbots be more complex and impactful to the various client scenarios that you'll encounter. But also nowadays we have ChatGPT, so if you're clever enough and you know how to prompt, you can have AI write your code. So that's why they say English is the new best programming language. Okay, so next here is a set AI step. So this is here, so you grab it and put it in here. Set AI, you can give it a label, extract date from history, and want the AI model to get the exact date that the user is mentioned from the response. So you can pause and read through the prompt, but basically what this prompt is, it's instructing the AI on how it's able to extract the exact date from the user's response. We will also give it some examples of if the user says tomorrow, that is 1 day from now, or if they say next week but one, that is 2 weeks from now, or something of the sort. So we give it a couple of examples. You can read through it. Okay, you can pause and read through it, but the critical part is the examples we give. Okay, so down here we give it some examples. It's a long prompt. Okay, so you see, if the user says, can I book an appointment for next Friday, it says this is a specific date, and we give it that specific date. Okay, if they say something like what's the weather like today, we just say the user is the answer it gives is no date. Okay, if they say I was thinking next week and they haven't provided an exact day, we'll say this is a week only, then give next week, which is the week of July 3rd. Okay, and it's able to tell this is the week of July 3rd because it already knows the current date, which we've provided over here. Okay, so yeah, that's critical. The next we provide just the conversation history and have the AI extract the actual date. Then we save that date to a variable called captured date. We've gone ahead and created that. Okay, and in this case all the meat is in the prompt up here. So in other scenarios, most of the time I would have this prompt in the system prompt, but either way it works normal. Okay, and have the temperature at 0. You don't want it to start using its creativity in extracting the date. Okay, then we have an if statement here. So this is in the logic if condition. So we check did we get a specific date. Okay, so how we do that is we check if captured date, that variable from the set AI step, if it contains the word specific date, means we've captured the specific date. Okay, so we can move on. Otherwise, if we didn't capture the specific date, so if this has something like no date or week only, in that case we have a no match, add a path. Okay, so we have added a path for the else condition. Okay, and in the else condition we'll have another set AI step that will generate a response that will send back to the user, enticing them to provide the actual date of that they would want their appointment. Okay, so you can pause and read through it. I don't want to bore you with this. Okay, it's long. Okay, so then we capture whatever the AI decides as the response and save it to the variable agent date response. Okay, then you see I've set the temperature as low as possible, or you can even set it to 0. Then I have a text message to display the agent date response. So this will be something like awesome, and when were you thinking of going for your appointment? Okay, something like that. Then we capture the user's response, save it to the last utterance variable. Then we send them back to the extract date block, which is this one up here. Okay, but so now let's assume we've gotten the actual date that we need. We move them on here, which will convert the date that we've gotten from the AI that's been extracted from the AI and convert it to ISO format. That's the format I'd shown you, that is 4 digits for the year, 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the day, okay? And that's how we're able to call the database. So it's important we have this step, so that, because in the database the dates have been saved in ISO format, so we need it in ISO format so that you can call the database and get the specific time slots that are available in that specific day. So you can pause and read through the prompt, okay? This is a simple one. Then we apply whatever it is. So we give it some examples here. For example, if the date input is this, we'll extract the date in ISO format as this, okay? So give it a couple of examples. 3 to 5 is good enough. It reaches a point where you give it too many examples and it reaches diminishing returns, where the more examples you give doesn't really help in improving its performance, but also it's even adding more AI usage costs on top of it, because the longer the prompt it is, the more tokens that are being consumed, okay? So try to be as concise as possible sometimes. So 3 to 5 examples is good enough. Then we save the extracted date to a variable ISO date, so ensure you create that. Then prompt settings, you can see temperature set to 0, max token set to default. Then we move on. Here, this is a critical step. So this is a function that will call the Airtable database to check are there available slots on the day that the user has mentioned, okay? In this case, Airtable is acting as our calendar app, but in reality, working with an actual client, in this case, we would be calling their calendar or wherever they use to save their appointment details. It can be Calendly, it can be Google Calendar, it can be Go High Level Calendar. Whatever they use, we're able to call their database or their calendar and get back the slots that are available, okay? By the purpose of this video is for you to get the concept so you can use it for your scenario. So let me go to the actual function. So here in the function, we have some 2 input variables that we'll need. So first is the date that the user wants to visit the doctor, then the Airtable token to call the Airtable database, okay? And I'll show you how to get that. So this is standard way of starting any voice flow function, is you first need to obtain the input variables that you'll be using within the function. So how you do that is you get it from the arguments.input variables, okay, which is these ones that you list over here. So go ahead and add these variables. Plus, give it a name, then plus. So for example, plus, give it a name of the variable, then you can plus and give in another name of the other variable, okay? So let me just remove those. So first, let me show you how the Airtable is structured. So here we have a basic database on Airtable. The first one is for the availability, so to check the slots that are available for the specific days, and also another table to save booking details, okay? So in the availability, we have date, then the slots that are available on that specific date. So this is a multi-select type field, so you can see that in place, and it has the following. For example, for the 20th of August, we have these specific slots that are available. But for the 21st of August, you can see these are the slots that are available, 6 of them, okay? So this is how we are able to call that. Then in the bookings database, we have the details for the booking ID. I think we already went through this in the demo, so I won't really touch on it much. So yeah, back to the function here. So this is a try catch block. So try making an API call to the database and get back relevant slots. If you run into an error, we're able to catch that error down here and pass it through the path of error. So go ahead on your side and create 2 paths. So first is success, and the next one is error. So in case a successful retrieval of slots has been done, we follow that path. In case there's any error in obtaining those slots, pass through the path of error. And if you go back to the canvas, you'll be able to see those paths accordingly, okay? So we capture the error here, then we completely exit from the function, and this is how in JavaScript you exit from a function, by using the return keyword, okay? So then next, go through this specific path of error, then display the following trace. So what a trace is, let's say the AI gives a response to the user in form of a text message. That is a trace of type text. If it displays some buttons in the chat window, that is trace of type choice. If it displays some carousel containing some images, that is trace of type text. So traces in VoiceFlow is simply whatever is being rendered within the chat window. And in the canvas, when we run the chatbot within the canvas, you'll see there's normally some small debug messages in light gray that help you in debugging. So we'll return the error message within that. So it's a trace of type debug, and the message is error with Airtable API, and we pass in the error message. The debug messages can't be shown in production or when you deploy it somewhere, but can be seen if you're running the chatbot within the VoiceFlow canvas. Okay, so it's good for debugging purposes. So now let's get here into calling the API. So first we create an Airtable formula that will only filter out the date that matches the date that the user has requested for. So that's why you see here, this is how an Airtable formula looks like. We captured where the field called date is matching the date that we have gotten from the user, and we're using this function called datetime_pass to ensure that the date that's being passed to through the API is in the format of date time. Okay, because in our Airtable database, you can see this field is of type date. So to be able to call it appropriately, the date has to be in the date time format. Okay. And also keep in mind that this is not a function within JavaScript. This is a function within Airtable, and that's why it's going to be passed in within the URL. Okay, and in this case we are encoding, so we are using this function called encode URI component, because in any case where you're inserting a variable within the URL, that's a URL component, you want to encode it, otherwise it won't work. So you need to encode anything that you're inserting within the URL itself, let's say in form of a variable. Okay, then we call the database, so await fetch. So this is how we call the database. It'd be better if VoiceFlow had Axios. So Axios is really good for making API calls, so something like axios.post, but in this case we just use vanilla JavaScript. That's await fetch. Then we pass in the Airtable URL. So, and how we get this is if I go to the Airtable documentation, so going back here to Airtable database, click on your profile, go to build a hub. So you'll reach here. First you need to create an access token that will allow you to call the database. So you'll click create new token, give the token a name, doesn't really matter, and some scopes. Okay, so I normally just add all these scopes that are over here, but in your case think of scopes as the permissions you're giving. So if someone has this access token, what functionalities are they allowed to do or alter within the database? You can just want them to read the information in the database, so you'll give that's just read scope, or if you need them to write to the database like creating records, you'll give them this scope of writing. But in case you need them to have full functionalities, just add all these scopes here. Okay, then you'll add a base, so the database you want to access, in this case is specialty hospital. Then create new token. It will pop up with the access token, copy it and save it somewhere, because you'll need it within your VoiceFlow project. So in my case I already have that, so I'll just cancel this. Then I'll go to developer docs over here, and I really like Airtable because they have superb documentation that makes it easy to work with their API. So web API docs. Then you want to scroll down, pick the database that you want to access, in this case is that. Then click on the table that you want to access, in this case that's availability table. Then you want to list the records, so you'll copy this link as is until there, then go back to your VoiceFlow. In this case I pasted it in here. Okay, but in your case you'll find this code, you don't really need to wonder. I just want to explain it to you so that you understand the background logic that went into it. So then we have a question mark to insert some parameters. So filter by formula. Okay, so filter the records by this formula that we've created up here, where the formula is where the date matches the date the user has mentioned. Okay, so insert that there. That will work because we have encoded it. Then the type of request is a get request. Then we pass in our authorization within the headers. So in here we'll have our access token. The access token is of type bearer, so it's a bearer token. Okay, so for the programmers out there, you can understand that. So then the JSON response, so we convert the response from the API into JSON so that we can work with it. Okay, then we check if the JSON response is not empty, as well as the JSON response.records is not empty, means it was successfully retrieved. We have gotten the necessary slots, so we can pass into the path of success Then in the output variables, okay, we pass in the necessary details. Okay, so on your case here, we'll have ensure in the output variables I've created those variables that we'll need to send back, that will be used within the VoiceFlow project. So that's the date, the record ID, and the available slots. This is not really necessary at the moment because I was needing to use this so that we can update the table, so that once a slot has been picked, we can be able to call the Airtable database again and remove that slot from that specific date, so that there's no double booking. Okay, but in this case, that's a bit complex for this tutorial. This is a basic tutorial. Okay, so in your case, you won't really need this part. Okay, so then else, so if this means that this JSON response is actually empty, means no records were found, so we'll pass in through the path of no record found, and you can see here in the paths I've already created that path. Okay, then we pass in a trace of type debug with the following message: no appointment record found for the following date. Okay, these are the records returned, so you can return the records just for debugging purposes. Okay, that's it. So that's a function. Going back to the workflow, so it will check availability, and it will have three parts. In this case, we'll just work with the success, simulating a successful retrieval of the slots. Okay, so then we'll ask them, kindly pick your preferred time slot. Then below that, we'll display buttons for them to pick the time slot they want to work with. And how we do that is we want to render these buttons dynamically, and how we do that is using a JavaScript block and the custom action block. So this is more complex and it's really powerful, so pay attention, because the other option was to use an if statement here, then using some buttons, so it would be so cluttered and your canvas would be filled up with so many blocks just to do something simple. So that's why it's critical to learn how to render things dynamically within your chat window, leveraging on the JavaScript block and the custom action block. It's very powerful, I can assure you, and I've already done a video on that, so you can go back to my YouTube channel. You'll see a video where I teach on how to render things dynamically within your VoiceFlow chatbot. So it's quite powerful skill, so go ahead and check that out. So here in the JavaScript step, so let me expand it and explain it. So my low code no code guys, chill out, I'll explain it. So first of all, we want to get the available slots and do json.parse so that you can turn it into JSON and work with it. So if I minimize this, go back here to my function. Okay, here in the input variables, I insert my ISO date accordingly, the one we generated with the AI. Pass in your access token, so paste in your access token here. And in the output variables, here on the right side, go ahead and save the variables, whatever variables that you need, to variables that you've created in your VoiceFlow. So I've gone ahead and created the following variables: appointment, this is appointment record date, appointment record ID. So these two, you won't really need them, but you'll need this available slots variable. Okay, I know I mentioned you won't need all of them, but you'll need this third one, available slots. Okay, so go ahead and save that variable to a variable called available slots, so which will be an array containing the available slots from the database. Okay, then we go back here in the JavaScript step. Okay, we create an empty buttons array that will contain the actual buttons. Then we loop through the available slots that are available. Okay, then push an object which is a single button. So for every slot that's in the available slots, create a button for it and push that button object to our buttons array up here. Then we'll use this to render the buttons dynamically. So each button contains an object which has a name, so that will be the name of the button. Then a request of type. So in this type, this slot picked is the path to follow when the user clicks on that specific button. And this you can see in the custom action step over here. I have a path created called slot picked. So in any case, whatever button they click will pass through the same path called slot picked. So that's why it's critical. Whatever name of the path you want to follow whenever a button is clicked, that has to match the name within the request type of that button. So copy this, Control-C from the custom action. It's the same that we are using here in the request type. Okay, so this is critical. If it's something else, it won't work. And it's super helpful in case you want to have the buttons follow different paths depending on the button picked. So you can have request type change depending on the path name within the custom action block. Okay, so then in the payload is where we pass in the actual slot. Okay, so slot picked will be the available slots, then we pass in that index, okay, to access that specific slot. It can be 9 to 10 or 10 to 11, whatever. Then this will create a payload that will be inserted within the custom action block, okay. So that contains the buttons, and we pass in the buttons array, okay. Then we turn it into string. This is critical because the custom action payload only accepts, or rather the custom action body only accepts a string. So convert it into a string through json.stringify. Then in this case, want to turn this available slots. Okay, this is not really necessary in this case, so I won't explain much about it. Okay, so coming here to the custom action, the custom action name, okay, should match the name of the trace you're trying to render. In this case, we are trying to render the trace that is some buttons, okay, and buttons is a trace of type choice, so ensure that is trace of type choice. If you are rendering some carousels, you will have it as carousel, okay, something like that. But in this case, we want it as choice, so we'll have it accordingly, okay. So, but I don't want to go to the nitty-gritties of explaining this because I already have a video on that. So in the action body, passing the payload we have created in the JavaScript block, then we create some paths. So the only path that we follow is slot picked, okay. Then ensure you toggle this on stop on action, and what this does is, once we've rendered the buttons dynamically, by default the custom action block always flows through to the next flow by default, but we don't want that. We want it to flow to the next flow, or rather the next block, which is this, only when there's an interaction with the button. So if someone clicks on the button is when we want to go to the next block, but if they don't click on the button, we want it to remain within this block. So that's why it's critical to have this on. Then here you can set use global listening, and what this does is, once the buttons have been rendered and the users continued chatting with the chatbot back and forth, they can always scroll back to the top where the buttons had been rendered and click on that button, and it will follow the flow accordingly. If this is disabled, so for example, if we disable global listening, means that if they continue chatting with the chatbot after these buttons have been rendered, if they scroll back to the top where the buttons had been rendered and click on the button, it won't follow the flow as meant to, so it won't work. It's a way to enhance the user experience and be more forgiving. In case they picked the wrong time slot, you can allow them to go and change it up there. So ensure you have this use global listening, okay. So then we have a JavaScript block here. So this one first obtains the slot picked from the last event. So this is last event dot payload dot slot picked, and if I take you back to the JavaScript here, let me show you the last event. So the last event is this, okay. So this is the last event, you can see here in the request. Then the dot payload dot slot picked, so this is what we want to access. Then we save it to a variable I've already created, it's called slot picked. So go ahead and create that on your voice flow. Then in this case, we want just to do a quick one. If they know the name to their condition, we're able to just leave it as whatever they've said, but if they've not mentioned the name, we just save the variable as none mentioned, okay. So this variable I've already created on my side. So then this is a function that now adds the record to our database, okay. So this is a function to create appointment. Let's see what it has. So first of all, I went ahead and created all the variables, so input variables that I'll need to use within the function, and these variables match the fields within our database. And if I show you that here in the bookings, you can see booking ID. So this is auto generated. So we need the patient name, email, phone, condition name, symptoms, appointment date, and appointment time. So this match whatever we are obtaining in our function, okay. So if you go back here, you can see them relevant there. Then finally, I add the Airtable token because we'll need this. So standard stuff, as I've already mentioned, obtain the variables that we'll need to use within the function. Then we call the database standard stuff. Just go to your Airtable API documentation. I've shown you how you're able to get that. So in this case, we want to call the bookings table, okay. This is a post request because we are adding a new record, okay. Then we pass in our authorization to authorize our access. Then mention the kind of payload that we're passing to the API, the format that it's in, which is JSON, as you can see it here. So we are in the body, we turn it into a JSON string, okay. Then we pass in the following fields. So fields patient name, email, all that. So these are the ones that will be added to our database. Okay, then we capture the response from the API, turn it to JSON. Then we check if an actual record was created. Okay, so if it was created, the response JSON won't be empty, or response JSON.id won't be empty. Okay, so that means that's successful. But otherwise, if it's empty, we go in, you can see here, else we exit the function by passing through the path of error. Then we pass in a trace of type debug. Okay, so this is a debug message where error creating new booking record, and we pass in the error message. Okay, which is similar to even the catch block over here. So if there is also any error within the function, we can catch the error and display it back through a debug message for debugging purposes. Okay, but in case it was successful, we want to send emails to the customer themselves, and also an email to the doctor of the new, informing them of the new record that's been booked. Okay, and how we do that is we use make.com. Okay, so let me show you the make.com scenario. So here's the make.com scenario. On your side, you'll create a new scenario. I don't want to go into the nitty-gritties from the beginning of making this scenario, because this wasn't a tutorial on make. Okay, so first we start with a trigger. Okay, and the trigger is an instant trigger. So there are two types of triggers: an instant trigger or a polling trigger. Okay, an instant trigger will run the scenario immediately data arrive, but for polling trigger, it runs the scenario every, let's say, 15 minutes or every 1 hour. Okay, so that's how it works. So in the instant trigger, you can see I created the trigger, which is a webhook. Then I took the URL, which will act as a webhook. Okay, so copy address to clipboard. Then I went back to my voice flow and pasted it in here. So in my await fetch, so when I'm making the API call, I can paste in that specific URL over here. Okay, then what I did is just doing run once. Then I made an API call from Postman with that specific webhook, passing in some details within the body payload of these specific details that we need to pass in to the user. So we need the patient name, email, phone. So these are necessary, that will be sent to the doctor's email, but also the booking ID, which will be sent to the patient, as well as the appointment date and time. Okay, so if I go back here, I was able to get that payload. In this case, we call them bundles of data. Then we passed it on to a step to send an email. So this is a module that sends an email. I went ahead and added my Google Mail connection. So go ahead and add a new connection, and you'll do your verification. It's proper advice. Just click on this button called online help and follow the instructions to verify and authorize your connection. Okay, once you do that, I put in the patient email that we get in from the API call. Then the subject of the email is HCG-CCK appointment booked. Then we tell them, dear patient name, this is to confirm that your appointment has been successfully booked for that specific date from that specific time. Okay, your booking ID is that. Thank you for choosing HCG-CCK, the best cancer care in Africa. See you soon. Okay, and that's how that works. Okay, then next we send an email to the actual doctor. Okay, in this case, I put the doctor as my personal Big Rip email. So Big Rip is our company that implements AI. So that's my email. I put it in there. Then the subject is new appointment booking. Then I say, dear Dr. Mutiso, there's a new patient booking. Pass in all the details in here. Okay, patient name, email, phone, condition, symptoms, all that. Then we tell them prepare for the appointment. Regards. So that's the simple scenario that handles that. Okay, so you can see that's how I'm doing that. So it's the same way we made the API call up here, but in this case is to send the emails. So in the body tag, we pass in those details. Okay, then we check if the email response dot status text is okay. Means the scenario ran successfully, sending the emails. We'll pass in through the path of success and give back the booking ID. Okay, but if it wasn't successful, we pass in through the path of error and say passing a debug message. So that's a trace of type debug, and the error message is error sending emails. Then we pass in the email response for debugging purposes. Okay, and yeah, that's it. So I've gone through all this. So going back here to the workflow, so if the appointment was created successfully in Airtable and the emails were sent, we tell the user successfully booked your appointment. Kindly check your email in regards to the booking. Here's your booking ID. We pass it in there, and you can see in the function itself, we pass in the actual details within the input variables. So the slot picked will go to the appointment time, ISO date to the appointment date, customer symptoms, condition, customer phone, customer email, customer name will go in there as intended. Then we pass in the Airtable token that we pasted it, that we got from our Airtable documentation. Okay, then the booking ID, whatever we obtain here, we save it to a variable we have created in VoiceFlow called booking ID. So if there's an error, we just tell them we're having trouble booking your appointment at the moment, kindly try again later. Others, if successful, we just tell them that, give them their booking ID, then we end the conversation. So here, just do actions, end. Okay, so we just end the conversation as well as here. So you can just end the conversation or ask them to, if they have any further question, and you can assist them. In this case, we just end the conversation. Okay, yeah, that's the flow. What we can do is just test the chatbot. So I'll go to the home page, or rather home workflow, then click start. Okay, so let's say hi, let's say I'm looking for, where are you guys located? Okay, so it checks the knowledge base, gives back a relevant response, so you can read it there. What cancers do you treat? You can notice these are the same questions we used for the demo. I'm a bit lazy to think of new questions, so you can see that gives us some responses there according to the knowledge base. So let's say I want to book an appointment. You can see it immediately jumps, it obtains the intent, then jumps to the book appointment workflow. Okay, which is the trigger for this workflow. So to book an appointment, we'll need a bit of information. What's your name? So let's say Mutiso. My email. There you go. And can you kindly provide your phone number, 07 whatever. Are you familiar with the name of the condition? Oh, also one tip, as you run your test over here through the canvas, you can see your variables as they change. So take your cursor to the complete left and click on that, your variables that you created in VoiceFlow, and you can see them as they change. So you can see by default, if they're empty, the initial value is 0. So are you familiar with the name of the condition? Yes. So let me say cancer, whatever. Okay, kindly type in the symptoms you're experiencing. You'll type in the symptoms there. Type it in there. Then let's see. Awesome. And when would you prefer to come for the appointment? So let's say tomorrow but 1. So let's see if it be able to catch on that. So you see, kindly pick your preferred time slot, and you can tell if I go to my captured date. So you see here in the captured date, this is a variable that's obtaining the date. You can see it's able to get that's August 22nd. Okay, and you see today we're in August 20th, so it's working accurately. So it called that database, checked on August 22nd which slots are available, got this, so you can click on that. There you can see successfully booked the appointment. Kindly check your email. If you go to Airtable, which is our CRM in this case, you can see details have been added there, booking ID, condition name, condition symptoms, and all the details we provided. Then you can see if I go to my email address, you can see it there. So HCG appointment booked. So you can see the message has been successfully booked from 12 to 1. Your booking ID is 21. Thank you for choosing HCG. And as the doctor, which is me, if I go to my email, you can see here just 4:06 an email just entered, okay, of the new appointment booking. Okay, dear Dr. Mutiso, there's a new patient booking, all that booking ID is there, the details we got, their patient name, email, phone number, all this. Okay, the patient symptoms, you can see the gibberish we typed. So we tell them prepare for the appointment. So that is working accordingly. Okay, anyways, that's it from me. If you'd love to work with our team to build such a system or any AI system, whether it's an AI chatbot or voice bot or workflow automations to cut down on redundant tasks, click on the link in the description to book in a meeting with our team. You'll visit our website for that. And if you need access to the resources, that's the template that we've used in this video, so you can build it yourself. Click the link in the description and we'll send you the entirety of this template completely for free. Till next time, stay survey. Peace.